dear students and teachers. Let me explain about stylistic devices so as to how to identify them in the texts and how to use them properly. The purpose of the seminar is to explain this topic to students because they start writing commentaries on text from the second year. Most of the students give me questions: what are stylistic devices and how can I look them up in the text or any kind of literature? On behalf of this question or topic, I'd like to dedicate today's seminar to you. So the aim of the lesson to answer the questions: what are stylistic devices? The first one is the purpose of the seminar is to get to know about stylistic devices, then the use of stylistic devices and how to find stylistic devices in the text appropriately. So it's divided into two groups. First, lexical stylistic devices. These are metaphor, metonymy, synecdoche, play on words, irony, epithet, hyperbole, understatement, oxymoron. And the second group are lexicosyntactical stylistic devices: antithesis, climax, anticlimax, similar, litotes, periphrases. So first of all, let's identify with you what are the stylistic devices and the origin of the stylistic devices. Stylistics is a subdiscipline which links literary criticism and linguistics. In linguistics, stylistic analysis is concerned with recurring patterns used in speech and writing, and in literature, it focuses on interpretation of a literary work. In other words, stylistic analysis tends to look for meaning in a text. Stylistic is a method of textual interpretation in which permissive place is assigned to language. The reason why language is so important to stylisticians is because the various forms, patterns, and levels that constitute linguistic structure are an important index of the function of the text. As well, stylistic studies linguistic means in a system, revealing their linguistic properties and nature, as well as the laws of their functioning. Then let's see the development of stylistics in relation to language. The study of the language of literature and style is one of the most traditional applications of linguistics. Nevertheless, the notion of style, language used in a particular way, is old and can be traced back to the 4th century Greece and Rome. Orators had to be skillful in convincing people and politicians with their speech, and that went with the ability to speak fluently and well. This ability required some strategies, decoration, and influence on people's minds. So language had to be set in a special manner to achieve its purposes. The emphasis was directed to the aesthetic function of the language of literature, which was viewed as the aesthetic transmission. The shaping of the bell-letter prose style called for the new system of expressive means and stylistic devices. There appeared a stylistic device which quickly developed into one of the most popular means. Thought and feeling or character in a novel can be shown the speech of the character combining with the exposition of the author to give a fuller explanation. The next is let's get to know with you the notion of effective expression leads directly to the idea of choice or selection of specific diction to convey the author's thoughts and feelings, to express it in the work. Stylistic study includes historical, personal, and psychological contexts. In literature and writing stylistically, elements are the use of any of a variety of techniques to give an auxiliary meaning, ideas, or feeling to the literalism or written. Eventually, stylistic devices refer to any of a variety of techniques to give an additional and or a supplemental meaning, idea or feeling, also known as figure of speech. So we can call it the synonym of stylistic devices are figures of speech or rhetorical devices. The goal of these techniques is to create imagery, emphasis, or clarity within a text in hopes of engaging the reader. Stylistics has two separate fields of investigation. The first field of investigation deals with the system of special language means which serve to achieve the desired effect, called the stylistic means of the language. The stylistic means of the language can be divided into two: expressive means and stylistic devices. The second field of investigation of stylistics is certain types of texts, distinguished by different aspects of communication, called functional styles of the language. Thus, stylistics is a linguistic subject that studies the system of stylistic devices and expressive means as well as the functional styles of the language. All stylistic means of a language can be divided into expressive means and stylistic devices. So, the expressive means of a language are those phonetic means, morphological forms, means of word building, and lexical, phraseological, and syntactical forms, all of which function in the language for emotional or logical intensification of the utterance. These forms are described to the textbooks of lexicology, stylistics, grammar books, and various dictionaries. And the next derivation is the stylistic device, is a conscious and intentional literary use of some of the facts of the language, including expressive means, in which the most essential features of the language are generalized. And problematic question is, what function do stylistic devices perform in the text? Most stylistic devices are regarded as aiming at the further intensification of the emotional or logical emphasis contained in the corresponding expressive means. Stylistic devices must always have some function in the text, besides they bring some additional information. The conception that words possess several meanings give rise to such stylistic devices as metaphor, metonymy, irony, epithet, and others, which we use when we write the commentaries on the text. Thus, a metaphor is a conscious, intentional intensification of semantic properties of a word. Oh, rain, say more. He enveloped her in a great embrace. Here is the dictionary meaning of the verb envelope is to wrap up, cover on all sides, or embrace, or hug. The contextual meaning is to embrace. There is a picture of the metaphor to control time. Let's look this picture. So it's transformed into the meaning to control times. So to manage, how to use the time properly. Here is the metaphor is used so the human being cannot control time, but we can properly use it. The meaning of the metaphor is transformed here. Let's look the other examples of the metaphor. For example, I'm not an angel, but I wouldn't behave like that. Я не ангел, но я бы не стал себя так вести. Тут значение метафоры означает примерный человек в переносном смысле. Next, America is a melting pot. Америка плавильный котел, то есть где место, где смешиваются различные культуры, этносы, народы. So let's continue our seminar. America is a melting pot. Америка плавильный котел. Тут, значит, метафора, где вместо смешиваются различные культуры, этносы, народы. Melting pot — это тут метафора, то есть в этом слове очень много значений. То есть в Америке живут очень много народов, этносов, и у них различные культуры, свои менталитеты, свои традиции. Вот поэтому тут именно метафора совмещается с большим значением. Melting pot. Дальше. John is a real pig when he eats. Джон как свинья, когда он ест. Тут метафора a real pig, как свинья. То есть метафора в перенесении жадный, неаккуратный человек. My father is a rock. Мой отец скала. Тут метафора в этом предложении — это скала. Скала, значит, это перенесение, сильный и надежный человек, которому можно довериться и никогда не отчаяться. Дальше у нас идет How could he marry a snake like that? Как же он мог жениться на такой змеюке? То есть a snake в этом предложении метафора означает плохое значение, предатель. То есть человек, которому нельзя доверять. Перенесение значения. The policeman let him off with a yellow card. Полицейский отпустил его с желтой карточкой. A yellow card — это предупреждение. Тут тоже перенесение значения. То есть yellow card — это предупреждение. Нельзя. Дальше. The next is metonymy. Metonymy is a figure of speech in which the name of one object is substituted for something closely associated with it. Examples of metonymy. The White House declared that we are at war with Mars. The White House is a metonymy for the President of the United States. After leading a After leading a rebellion, he seized the throne. The throne is a metonymy for absolute power or kingship. Throne, here is a metonymy. The next figure is Stylistic Deutsch, a figure of speech in which a part of something is used to represent the whole thing. For example, I have 4 mouths to feed at home. I have 4 family members feed at home. Here is the meaning: 4 family members is concluded 4 mouths. Using the figure of speech, Stylistic Deutsch. Mouths, the part is used to represent people of the family, so as to represent the whole thing. Let's see the next figure of speech. It's a play on words, sometimes on different senses of the same word and sometimes on the similar sense or sound of different words. Here are some examples. The raisin whined about how he couldn't achieve greatness. Here is the play on words is whined. And the next is I nailed my word sharp test. Nailed. Next, irony. Irony is a figure of speech in which words are used in such a way that their intended meaning is different from the actual meaning of the words. It may also be a situation that may end up in a quite a different way than what is generally anticipated. In simple words, it's a difference between the appearance and the reason. The example of the irony. At the Halloween party down there, one fat molecule is dressed as an angel and another as a devil. Makes sense, there are good fats and bad fats. That virus wasn't invited, but he sneaked in dressed as the Lone Ranger. So here is the irony that the antibody is wearing a cape. The ironic thing is the virus is wearing a mask. What is an epithet? With the use of epithets, writers are able to describe the characters and settings more vividly, in order to give richer meanings to the text. Since they are used as a literary tool, they help in making the description of someone or something broader and hence easier to understand. With the help of epithets, the writers and poets develop suitable imaginary fewer words. The example of the epithet. Ivan the Terrible, the artist formerly known as President Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. To express, so we use epithet to express what kind of person or thing is. For example, Ivan the Terrible. Terrible, it means that the person is very strict, and we use it to express the words in the text or in the literature. What is understatement? Understatement, a form of speech which contains an expression of less strength than what would be expected. Example, the phrase, "Oh, I wonder if he could get any later. I'm free all day long." Said in a sarcastic tone, it indicates that the speaker obviously means the opposite of the literal means. So he didn't want to do it and tell it conversely. Now, examples of oxymoron. So big baby, open secret, passive aggressive, original copy, alone together, deafening silence, clearly confused, and living dead. Oxymoron is a type of figurative language which involves the use of two words which appear to contradict one another, but when used together make a true and sometimes positive statement. It's a rhetorical device which can be used in order to reveal a paradox by using two self-contradicting terms. It's also used in a literary sense in order to add a more complex feel to the text and in order to cause the reader to think in a more profound way about the situation at hand. Next, antithesis. What is antithesis? Antithesis is in fact a word from ancient Greek which directly translates as opposite. When we talk about antithesis in the English language, we are referring to a phrase which contains two contrasting ideas. Antithesis is used to express opposing ideas in a more vivid fashion in order that it has more an impact on the person listening to or reading the language. Examples. Extremism in defense of liberty is no voice. Moderation in the pursuit of justice is no virtue. Love is an ideal thing. Marriage a real thing. Everybody doesn't like something, but nobody doesn't like Sarah Lee. It's so here is antithesis everybody, and in the next lesson it tells contrasting nobody. Climax, each